How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Many Interpretations Of, where this time we are looking at Giganotosaurus, or Giganotosaurus, depending on your pronunciation. I personally don't care, but I call it Giganotosaurus. For purposes of this video, and because it's kind of a mouthful, we'll probably mostly be referring to it as Giga. Regardless on pronunciation, let's just get right into it, and we'll start off strong with The Land Before Time. 5. The Mysterious Island. I remember this one being a cool one. I remember this one being one of my favorites when I was a child. We get reintroduced to Chomper, who is now able to speak, and we get to see his parents again, and we get to see this gnarly looking fella. Apparently, he's a Giganotosaurus, which is very cool. He's got this nice kind of classic green dinosaur color. I call that classic green because it feels like you would see a lot of dinosaurs that were this kind of green, with some counter shading and some absolutely massive teeth, the red eye, and even some kind of some crests going on, which is very cool. But the skull and everything really kind of matches the Tyrannosaurs in the same show. Like, you look at him compared to the other two Chomper's parents, and it's pretty similar, all things considered. Though I do remember this being one of the times that Land Before Time got pretty violent, because he kind of messes Chomper's parents up. I do remember seeing blood in their little fight, which is kind of crazy to see because I don't remember seeing things like that too much in like the later Land Before Time movies. I mean, in the first one, it kind of got a little bit violent, but not in the later ones. So that was certainly really cool. So yeah, I think that we're starting off pretty strong with that one. Next up is a very awesome Nigel Marven project. We have Chased by Dinosaurs. This Giga is pretty cool. All things round. It does seem like the head is a little bit too small and thin. I do believe that Giganotosaurus did have a pretty broad skull that was a little bit more rounded. Granted, it is pretty fragmentary, the skull pieces that we do have, so I can't really speak too much about it. One thing I can say is that its chin was certainly bigger than this. It had what is kind of known to many people as a Giga chin. I don't know. But I really do like the patterns, and I do like the colors on this guy. It's also portrayed as being a type of sauropod hunter, and Carcharodontosaurs are pretty famous for being sauropod hunters. Granted, Giga would probably go after the younger individuals or the weaker individuals, or mobbing behavior would probably be exhibited, which is something that we might see quite a bit on this list. Either way, very cool portrayal. Then, Dinosaurus Giants of Patagonia. I do remember having this one. I rented this one from a library, and I watched it via that. We have a huge design with a head that looks significantly improved from the last ones that we've seen. It basically has the whole basic shape of a Giganotosaurus head. The body seems pretty good, portrayed with decently small arms and a pretty solid color. But all around, I think this is one of the best ones that we've seen thus far. And again, it is exhibited being a type of sauropod hunter, which, yeah, pretty much checks out. Then in Dinosaur King, we have this massive fellow right here with a very striking purple coloration. Its skull seems interesting. It kind of seems like the snout droops down a little bit, which is certainly different compared to other ones that we're probably going to see. But I do like the colors and patterns that are exhibited in this one. I like the difference between the top of the body with those colors and the bottom of the body, just basically counter shading. I probably should have just said that. But yeah, no, this is another solid one. So far, the list is looking pretty awesome. Now, there is also Journey to the Center of the Earth. Saw this movie in theaters. This was during the 3D craze, back when every single movie wanted to be 3D. This movie was specifically shot with 3D in mind, so there was a lot of scenes where there was things kind of going at the camera. That's not really important for Giganotosaurus. I just wanted to bring that up because it was certainly an interesting time in our history. However, this Giganotosaurus I certainly always thought was a Tyrannosaurus because it looks like a Tyrannosaurus. It has a thicker skull. One thing to note with Carcharodontosaurids is that their skulls were decently thin, at least mostly when you looked at them from the front view. A lot thinner than a Tyrannosaur skull. Their teeth also weren't this thick. This guy really does look like a Tyrannosaurus rather than a Giganotosaurus. And so when I was a kid, I always assumed it was a Tyrannosaurus. But keeping Giga in mind, it does have the correct amount of fingers, which is 3. Tyrannosaurs have 2. So this is probably one of the more interesting designs that we have on the list. I stand corrected because next is Primeval. I don't really know what's going on with this guy. That head is a lot different than most others I've seen. The arms seem a bit too long and he's really thin. I do like the added extra flair of these kind of quills or spikes that it has up here. I think that's pretty interesting, like it's something that's kind of subtle that also helps it stand out. But the snout looks a little bit too thin, and I'm not talking about when you look at it head on. Like looking at it from the side, it seems a bit too thin. The patterns are cool though. I do like the patterns on its face. I think that those are kind of really cool to see. Like you have that kind of stripe right there set right before its eye. Very, very interesting in that way, but this isn't my favorite. And Dinosaur Train probably has one of the best looking ones. We have Laura here, Laura the Lookout. She looks really good. Like her skull matches up pretty good. The rest of the body seems pretty good. Nice green coloration. Practically everything seems to match up pretty well to what a Giganotosaurus was like in life from the available fossil material, from what we're able to understand. And it also retains that stylized Dinosaur Train look about it, that whole look and feel of it. So this one's very good. Then Gigantosaurus, I reckon that this fella right here is supposed to be a Giganotosaurus, even though it's called Gigantosaurus. Completely different spellings. Little fun fact though, when I was a child and I used to look through those dinosaur books, there was always Giganotosaurus at one page or another, and I used to just pronounce it Gigantosaurus. So there's that. Anyway, this is a very, very stylized design. He has like extremely interlocking teeth, like very crocodile-like in appearance. These kind of cool red spikes, adding that little bit of extra complementary colors with the green body and the counter shading. This one is definitely different and just extremely stylized. This is also the same show where Rocky here appears, and you know that Rocky is literally the best looking Parasaurolophus ever. Maybe. But in all actuality, one of my favorite designs comes from Dino Dan. Look at this son of a gun. I mean, maybe the head is a little bit too small. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But either way, look how cool the head looks with those colors and the texturing, and the rest of the body too with those colors. Certainly does remind me of this son of a gun that I have right here. Camera focus on the proper spot, you son of a gun. Really reminds me of this son of a gun right here. I don't know why I'm saying son of a gun so much, but this Giganotosaurus, the way that it looks with those colors and just the way that the animal, the whole shape of it looks, this Dino Dan portrayal certainly reminds me of that. And I'm a huge fan of the way that this guy looks. I found it at a museum, so looks cool, right? In fact, while we're here, let's kind of look at the overall anatomy of a Giganotosaurus. So right here you have this kind of, very thin carcharodontosaurid skull. When you look at it from the front, you can definitely tell how thin that was. With these very blade-like teeth, like they're shark-like teeth essentially. And as I was talking about earlier, the type of, focus. As I was talking about earlier, there's the type of Giga chin, how it kind of like gets a little bit bigger right here. I don't think it's as pronounced on this figure, but it is kind of present. A pretty big and bulky body because it was a big animal. Relatively short arms in comparison to its body size, and 3 fingers on those arms, or hands rather. I really like this figure, it's one of my favorite purchases. So yeah, we'll use it as the standard going forward, I suppose. But the Dino Dan design really looks awesome. And finally, one of the most recent portrayals of this animal comes from Jurassic World Dominion. Not a big fan of this one. I mean, first I'll talk about the things that are cool about it. Obviously, the CGI is very good. That's pretty much been true for all of the Jurassic World films. It's very high quality CGI, and I 100% appreciate the fact that they do use practical effects. I mean, they practically made a whole Giganotosaurus for the scenes that it was present in. I think that is cool, and I always appreciate things like that, especially when you look at Jurassic Park's roots. But I'm just not a big fan of the design. The skull seems to match up decently well. I mean, if you place it side by side with the skeleton, then it seems pretty good. It's just one of the things that I just can't stand with recent Jurassic World designs is just these placements of osteoderms. They just cover them with osteoderms, and it's starting to give them kind of like a generic monster look about them. Most theropod dinosaurs did not possess osteoderms. I should probably always clarify, osteoderms are those bones that grow in the skin. Crocodiles and alligators have them today. Basically, most theropod dinosaurs that appear in Jurassic projects nowadays have crocodile backs. And it also has this kind of like almost small sail hump thing towards the back that really makes it look like a concavinator, which, concavinator is a carcharodontosaurid, so connection. I mean, no. This doesn't have concavenator DNA because we did see it in the prologue, which is set in the past during the Mesozoic, the late Cretaceous, and the design looks exactly the same. So you can't really say that it's DNA that made it look like this. That's literally how it looks like in universe. It also kind of looks like an Acrocanthosaurus in a weird sort of way. Anyway, though, I will mention that one of my least favorite things about it is also the colors, just with how dull they are. And I say that because in Jurassic World Evolution, you of course get this model in Evolution 2. You do get to choose this model, and you get to change the colors. And some of the colors that you get to give it look, in my opinion, a lot better and actually help me digest this design a little bit better. Like I'm in particular, I'm a huge fan of this one. But I digress. I can't spend too much time with it. There are a lot of positives with this design, but all in all, it's not really a design that's for me. Now let's stick to the Jurassic franchise, starting off with some of the video game portrayals. Apparently in the Lost World Jurassic Park on the PSX or / Saturn game, there was going to be a Giga in that game, and in the Raptor gallery apparently, but it was cut for T-Rex and Allosaurus. I wanted to talk about this because I think it looks really cool. Specifically with those colors. Look how cool that looks. I like the slight hint of red on the head and the blue body. I think that looks cool. There's not much else I could say about it other than the fact that it looks cool. Then we'll move on to Warpath Jurassic Park. And again, I just don't have too much to say about it. This looks pretty similar to most of the other theropods that are in the game. It's obviously rigged to the rest of the theropods. That way they all had the same hitbox and whatnot. But yeah, I'm just... It looks, it looks good. It looks good in the context of the game. I especially like these colors. Far out. Groovy. Love it. In Jurassic Park 3 Park Builder, I don't know if I can make out too much about this guy because of the way that it's positioned, but it seems extremely thin with a very long neck. Carcharodontosaurus had a pretty short neck in general. A lot of theropods did. Like, they certainly weren't this long. And a red coloration and just, smaller and thinner proportions in general. Then in Jurassic Park Builder, honestly didn't know that this guy was in it, so that's fun. I love their style in this game because they're very stubby. I'm noticing a common theme of placing spikes on Giganotosaurus. I wonder where that originated from. Not too sure about that, but I think that this looks kind of cool. The colors in this one in particular are just very cool. So I like that one. I think that one's a great one. And then in Jurassic World the game, I don't like this one. I don't like how stubby, how blunt that head is. And it's just, I don't know, it just looks kind of strange to me. I don't know, I don't really know how to articulate exactly how I feel about it. Obviously, it is still rigged to the same model as the rest of the theropods, most of the theropods anyway, so it has like 2 fingers and the same body plan, so it loses a little bit of its identity, but mostly the skull I'm not a fan of. But when you level up to level 31 and 40, the colors are really interesting, and it, again, has spikes, once again. I mean, like I said, I'm noticing a common theme here.
Okay, and then we have the ones from Jurassic World Evolution, and I really have to say that I love the way that these guys look. I think that they capture the Giganotosaurus very well. They're also very, very loud. I hope that's not drowning my voice out. But I think that they capture Giganotosaurus very well. The skull looks really good. The whole body looks good. Of course, the spikes, like I said, there's a trend. I like these colors that I gave this guy in particular. I like the dark colors with the kind of accents of blue in the striping. It also has the kind of relatively short arms. It's just very good. It's really good. I really like it, I'm a big fan.
Fossil fighters, from what I can tell, it looks like there's 2 in this. There's this one. They're both called Giganto. I don't know if I'm correct in that. Like, just correct me if I'm wrong. But it seems like there's 2, so I'm going to incorporate both of them. There's this one with a nice red base for a body and kind of gray colors. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. It doesn't stand out too much in terms of the rest of the theropods in this game. But this one right here looks really crazy. Like, the texturing is so different, and the reds and greens, again, with the complementary colors, or Christmas colors, which are still complementary. Both look pretty interesting. I mean, they're not too high on my list, but yeah, no, I still like the stubbier appearance with this stylized look. Dino Crisis gives us a huge one. And this is a great spot to talk about the controversy when it comes to talking about what is the largest theropod to ever exist. Many do think that it was Giganotosaurus. I mean, Jurassic World even said that a couple of times. Jurassic World Dominion did. And the thing is, as of right now, Tyrannosaurus Rex is the largest. It's based off of weight. It's not based off of length or height. And from what we could tell from the available fossil material, Tyrannosaurus Rex is the one that was able to get to the largest possible size. T-Rex had a weight of around 8.7 metric tons, whereas the largest possible size for Giga is estimated to be around 8.2 metric tons. So it's not too much bigger, you know, in terms of their largest size, but that still does make T-Rex larger. Of course, when it comes to nature, there's a lot of nuance to it. And I kind of spoke about this in one of my videos on my TikTok, but you know, if you took a time machine and you went back in time to view a T-Rex or to view a Giganotosaurus, chances are you won't see the largest possible individuals. You would see some that were decently small for their species or just average size, you know. So there was a lot of cases where there were larger Giganotosauruses than there were T-Rexes, and there was a lot of cases where there would have been a lot of larger T-Rexes than there were Gigas. I just don't think we should get caught up on sizes too frequently. A lot of times I think we let it ruin our perspective of dinosaurs a little bit too frequently. Anyway, let's talk about the design. Looks cool. It has a little bit of a reddish base with the black stripes, and that head is just covered in just like really rough skin, just really jagged and kind of just crazy looking. I love it. I think that this one looks really great and is just very well made in general. This is probably one of the most iconic ones that will pop up on this list. But yeah, no, outstanding. And then Ark, I kind of like this one too. It seems to have the whole basic shape of Giga down properly. Again, it's massive. A lot larger than the T-Rex in this game. So it really kind of like links into that whole, you know, monster version of this animal pretty well. But I think in terms of Ark designs, this is one of my favorites. I think it looks really good.
Okay, and now in the aisle, we have this amazing looking fella. Look how cool this looks. I especially love a lot of the colors that you're able to give him. This is, of course, in the Isle Legacy. I don't think Giganotosaurus is in Vrima yet. I wasn't really able to find it, but it looks so good here. What's really interesting is how prominent those crests are on the top of the animal skull. It does have the huge chin too, which is all really cool. And the rest of the proportions seem to match up very well. It's got a pretty bulky build. And of course, the animations in the aisle are always phenomenal. I just love the way that this guy looks. And I know that I say that a lot with a lot of these depictions, but I just, you know, there's just a lot of them I like, you know, and this is just another one. And I gave him some blue stripes. I think the blue stripes are cool. And then in Path of Titans, we actually do have two Giganotosaurus mods. We have the Divine Beast Giganotosaurus, which is this huge fella right here. And then there is the Primordial Tyrants Giganotosaurus. I think they both look extremely well. They, of course, have their variation. You know, you can give them different... Oh, wow, that is a thin son of a gun. Wow, that reminds me of Chased by Dinosaurs. Wow. You know, you can give, there's a lot of variation that you can give them. You know, you get to change your armor or your attack, and you get a different model with stuff like that. Same with the Primordial Tyrants. I think that they are both just extremely, extremely high quality, and you know, I've said it several times before, but it still rings true. I love how good the mods in Path of Titans are. These look like these could be officially released creatures in the game, and I love that. I love that, and I love that we have two very high quality Giganotosaurus mods in the game.
So that is pretty much all I have in terms of Giganotosaurus portrayals. Surprisingly, there's not as many as I would have initially assumed, which again, just kind of surprised me. Granted, it does seem to be a dinosaur that only really started to gain its popularity in recent memory, thanks to some of its portrayals like in Jurassic World. So maybe in the future, we'll see a little bit more of this dinosaur in various different forms of media, and that'll be exciting because it is a pretty cool theropod dinosaur. There's a reason why it's a lot of people's favorite. And I didn't really find a chance to talk about this, but I want to talk about how it was able to like snap its mouth shut like very rapidly. It had like a special adaptation on the back of its skull. Thought I'd mention that. So it was very, very efficient at biting and using those blade-like teeth to just slash into prey, mostly sauropods likely, just very cool stuff. But that is pretty much all I have for this one. If you guys enjoyed it, please like, comment, and subscribe. That certainly does help out a lot. And thank you guys so much for watching, and have an awesome day.